it taking your trip down memory lane, and were there some chapters that didn't make the final cut?
It was great to look back at my life, and I tried to write chapters that would be especially pertinent to young people, especially about positive choice. I lost my beautiful 15-year-old son to a bad choice, and he was just the light of my life. His name was Matthew, it means gift from God, and he just made a poor decision and it killed him, and it just destroyed my wife and I for many, many, many years. So the basic impetus to write the book was hopefully to encourage young people to make the positive choices and to realize that their choices have consequences. But the stories, I think, are uplifting. They're stories about faith and hope and optimism and courage and being yourself. The very first chapter is called I Will Be Myself. And when I read that, that was the very first line of code I got back from a young girl when I went to the school in Santa Barbara and said, write your codes, send them to me. And I thought that was like an anthem for youth. It was an anthem when I was 18, and it's an anthem today. I'll be myself. I'm not going to be bullied into doing something I don't want to do. I'm not going to be a victim of peer pressure. I'm not going to do dope because someone wants me to do dope. I'm just going to be myself. Power, raw power of students. So I try to write stories in that vein, stories about when I was 19 and having to face my fears and where was I going to find my courage from. So I think that even though, like you said, it's generations past, I think the basic essence of each story is now. It's today. It's for young people to make them realize that they can do anything. Anything.
Good. So like you were just speaking about your son, Matthew, and you speak about this in the book as well, was this something you decided to do from the beginning? Or?
Well, I didn't decide to do it from the beginning because I was broken, and my wife, we were broken for so long. And I just thought that it would be a wonderful way to remember my beautiful boy. And the day he died, he read me an essay that he'd written in school. He was at school in Clifton, at my old school in Durban, and he wrote these words, "The light shines ahead." And for me, that has really become a mantra in my life, this notion that no matter what happens to you, that God can walk with you, and that the light shines ahead, that the sun will rise tomorrow. And the book is very much written with beautiful Matthew in mind. And then there's a story in there about how, by a miracle, we had our new son, and his name is Luke. And often when I speak at schools, and I tell schools about losing my boy and how terrible it was, and how choice matters. And I always say to students in the audience, so what does Luke mean? And there's always a Luke in the audience, and he will stand up and he'll say, it means light, it means healer, it means bringer of light. And it brings it all into focus that no matter what, that sometimes you think God deserts you, and I thought my God had just deserted me. And then I found that he hadn't deserted me, and he brought me Luke.
That's wonderful. So your book is very personal. You write a lot from personal experiences, and there's also a story about you winning on a surf and then a wave hit you off your board and you had to make a decision. Was this like a big impact for you? If you can take us back to that moment.
Yeah, it was a big impact both in the literal and figurative sense, because this wave hit me. It smashed me so hard it knocked all the air out of me and smashed me down to the bottom, and I knew that I only had 17 seconds to get back up to the surface, and if I didn't, the next wave would come over me and it could possibly drown me. So I managed to get a gulp of air that saved my life, and then it washed me in where my board was floating in the riptide, about 15 meters from shore and about 300 meters out to where the surfing contest was happening. The final was going on. And I paddled up to my board, and I actually thought I'd bust my legs because I couldn't feel my legs from the waist down. I mean, I had really smashing wipeout. And I had to make that decision. What do I do? Do I paddle in or do I paddle back out? Do I face my fears? Do I look into my heart and find the courage to face those fears? And it's a nice story, so students I think can really relate that, because they're going to be busted and beaten and broken. Maybe not during their school career, but certainly in their work career or at another time. And this notion of resilience is at the core of the book. And I went to this amazing school in KwaZulu-Natal. It's the first black school in the country. It's a place where Nelson Mandela voted in 1994. It was started by Dr. John Dube. He started the ANC, he started the Inkatha Freedom Party. amazing man who studied in the United States at Tuskegee University, and it's called Ohlanga, and it means read. I go and talk at the school, and I walk in, and I felt the spirit, and read. When the wind blows and the storm comes, the reed bends and bows, but it doesn't break, and then the reed comes back. So speaking in that school was an amazing experience for me to have been there and seen how leaders create this country. Leaders can create it, but leaders can destroy it too. And how, when I speak to all these young kids, these are the leaders, and they have the power, they have the optimism, they have the hope to make this the greatest country in the world.
Do you still write a lot of words, and how often?
I still love to get out there. Whenever it's good, I'm out there. I was down in Durban about a week ago, and it was just huge. It was like insanely big. I mean, I didn't go out. I didn't have... the one day was, I'm going, whoa, I might get my bloody backside handed to me out there. And then the next day I had to go and do a whole lot of schools. But I still love to get out there, not when it's life and death. Those days are a long time behind me, but I still have to get out there and challenge myself.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Shaun, for coming to the chatNOU studio. It was amazing speaking to you. It's really just your presence, it's overwhelming. You're like a wave. Your presence is overwhelming. So thank you so much for coming to chat with us. It's really amazing. Dit was Shaun Tomson, die voormalige Suid-Afrikaanse wêreldkampioen surfer. Hoe legit was dit? So gaan koop The Code, lees The Code en dan leef The Code.